Let's talk about our best 12 concealers worth every single penny. We have everything from most long wearing, best coverage, most hydrating, most skincare infused, all of that good stuff. Let's jump into it. Starting with the best overall. This is the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. This concealer, it kind of just gives you everything that you want. Buildable coverage, very lightweight, creamy texture and consistency, very easy to use. It's almost foolproof. You can use your fingers, brush, or a sponge. And of course, it gives that really nice, radiant, natural finish. The only thing that we really docked it for was the longevity. With my experience, it lasts between 6 to 8 hours without setting, which we would want at least 10 to 12 hours without setting, but we're just, we're nitpicking here. It's a cult favorite for a reason. It's just a really good concealer. And you don't need too much of this either. I personally like to apply this concealer with either my fingers or a brush. This one in particular is the Rare Beauty. It has more of that densely packed bristles, and this one gives you really great coverage and a really nice soft airbrushed finish. So this concealer wears really well throughout the day. It doesn't accentuate any kind of fine lines. It doesn't give you that crepey skin at the end of the day, but it does start losing its coverage because it does stretch and move with my skin, which is a good and a bad thing. So I wish it was a little bit more long wearing, but it does wear beautifully throughout the day. So the next one is the longest wearing, and this is by Lancome. This is their Teint Idéal Ultra Wear All Over Concealer. So medium to full coverage, so it's really buildable, and it has a natural finish. It has a really big doe foot applicator, which is great for quick application. And again, a little bit goes a long way. And with this one, you can use pretty much any method, and it looks beautiful whichever way you decide to blend. I'm going to use a brush as well, but I'm going to use more of a fluffier brush. This is by Spectrum. This is a Katie Jane Hughes collection. And I like this one because it kind of helps stretch this product out even more, helps diffuse it, makes it look a little bit more natural, but it still gives me that coverage. So this concealer, it's extremely easy to blend. It is a lighter formula, but it can get heavy if you really pack on this concealer. So a little bit goes a long way with this concealer, and you can build it up to your desired coverage, and you can get a really good full coverage out of this concealer. And just a quick one-to-one, NARS is more of a radiant natural finish versus Lancome. It's more of a natural, like a soft velvety finish. Lancome, it looks a little bit more soft and diffused. It looks a little bit more flat. And my under eye bags, they're pretty much gone. Versus NARS, it's a little bit more natural. It's a little bit more supple and plump looking. So you can see a little bit more lines, more shadows underneath the eyes. The Creaseproof concealer is by Huda Beauty, and it's their #faux filter concealer. So this one is not only just grease-proof, it's also waterproof, it is sweat-proof and transfer-proof. The only thing with this concealer, because it is a matte finish, if you are on the drier side, I would say prep your under eyes beforehand. And again, a little bit goes a long way. Don't go heavy-handed because it can look heavy. So this has a medium buildable coverage, like I said, matte finish, and it's crease-proof. Let's just be honest. Every single concealer creases out there, but there are some concealers that don't crease as much. Very minimal. They don't break apart under your eyes, and they look beautiful all day long. This is one of them. This concealer is very, very buildable, and it layers really well without looking cakey and crepey underneath your eyes. And it sets down to a beautiful, really soft finish, and I think it's a really nice velvety finish instead of your typical matte. It's so pretty. It's very flattering. Best coverage goes to Dior, their Forever Skin Correct Concealer. This one is beautiful. This concealer has a natural finish with full coverage. This formula, in comparison to the Huda Beauty, this one is a lot creamier in texture. It's more moussey versus the Huda. It's very liquidy, and it's very, very light. This concealer, you can blend out with your fingers, brush, or a sponge, depending what kind of finish and how much coverage you prefer. So looking one-to-one, Huda Beauty, the color, first of all, because it's so brightening under my eyes, the color is a tad too light, but it's still workable because I worked in such thin layers. But the coverage on the Dior is impeccable. It's a beautiful full coverage without making your under eyes look very dry, looking crepey, exaggerating all your fine lines. It wears really beautiful. I would say to get the best wear out of this, I would set it with some loose powder to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. This one with Huda Beauty, because it has that self-setting property and it's not super tacky, I don't have to set it and it looks beautiful all day long. Our most hydrating concealer is the Winky Lux, the Peeper Perfect Full Coverage Concealer. It comes in this squeezy tube. It's full coverage and it has a really nice, radiant, illuminating finish. You can apply it straight to your under eyes, or you can just take it to the back of your hand and warm it up that way. And I go in with your fingertip or use a brush to pack this on. It's very brightening, and this concealer is perfect for those that want that really dewy, radiant finish with full coverage. The application is, again, very foolproof. You can use your fingers, a brush, or a sponge, and you're gonna get a very dewy, radiant finish, as you can see. This is great for really dry skin or even mature skin. And the way it wears, it kind of just moves and stretches with your face, whatever you're doing. So there's not so much creasing. The one thing I will say, if you have more oily skin like myself, I'm normal to combo, I find that I do like to set this concealer with a light, loose setting powder, a very light dusting to kind of just help it set a little bit more, because it does have that serum, very skincare type of a texture and formula and finish. So this right here, if you're looking for that glass skin, this is it. Best brightening concealer is the new Too Faced Born This Way, their Ethereal Illuminating Smoothing Concealer. This one has more of a natural illuminating finish, and it's a medium buildable coverage. They have skincare benefits packed into this concealer to help diminish your dark circles over time. Hyaluronic acid, aloe leaf extract, daikon seed extract, squalane, coconut water, and alpine rose, all to help smooth, brighten, illuminate your under eyes. I'm going to use my fluffy brush to blend this out, because the formula, it's a little bit more of a moussey whipped texture. So there is a little bit of resistance to it. I wanted to put these ones together to show you guys what it looks like. The Winky Lux is a very glass skin, very dewy finish, very brightening, versus Too Faced. It's also very brightening, but it's a little bit more of a subtle, natural, luminous, dewy finish. It's still, like you can see, it's a little bit more flat, versus Winky Lux, there's a little bit more texture showing, but both are stunning. And I think they're both great for brightening and illuminating your under eyes. Too Faced wears really nice throughout the day as well. I find that I don't have to powder as much as the Winky Lux, because the Too Faced sets a little bit more, just because it's not as much of a dewy finish, and the formula, it's not super creamy and emollient like the Winky Lux. I feel like if you have dry under eyes, you can skip the setting powder. If you have more oily, set it and forget it. Our best cream concealer, NARS Soft Matte Concealer. If you're one of those that likes a full coverage, but also you like to use a concealer kind of all over the face and you want to get there quick, opt for a cream concealer, because they're super concentrated and you can use them all over the face and they won't budge. This one is stunning because it's full coverage and it has that really nice, soft, natural matte finish. So it's not going to look super drying. It's not going to make your face look extra flat. It's just going to set down to a nice, soft matte finish, and it's full coverage. I'm just gonna go in with my fingers and really soften this formula. This is just gonna help warm it up even more on the skin to get that flawless coverage and finish. There you go, soft matte finish. It's not extremely flat and just really matte and dry looking. It still looks like your skin, but a little bit more softer and airbrushed and just perfected. The best shade range and matte finish has to go to Fenty, their Pro Filter Instant Retouch Concealer. This one has medium to full buildable coverage, and it has a matte finish. This one, I would like to blend with a dampened sponge, or start off with your finger and blend it out with your brush to kind of softly diffuse everything. With this concealer also, you kind of have to work quick because it does set rather fast. So one negative about the Fenty Beauty, I will say it's not as full coverage as they claim. I have to layer quite a bit to get that full coverage. So with this one, I went 2 dots to get a medium, like a solid medium coverage, but you can still see a little bit of blue peeking through, but that's kind of the only negative for me. But this one is beautiful because you have such an incredible shade range, extremely inclusive, and this one does have a little bit more of a true matte finish. The NARS has a little bit more of a glow, a little bit more of that glow from within happening versus the Fenty. It's a true matte finish. It's a little bit more flat. Best clean category is our Kosas. The Revealer Super Creamy plus Brightening Concealer. So they claim this to be essentially an eye cream with coverage. So you have all the incredible skincare benefits. For example, they have caffeine, pink algae, they have arnica, provitamin B5, peptides, hyaluronic acid, plus they're cruelty-free, they're paraben-free, sulfate-free, formaldehyde-free, PBG-free. But this is a really great clean brand. This concealer has more of a dewy, radiant finish with a medium buildable coverage. We're just gonna use Hourglass brush. This concealer is so blendable. It's just creamy and just stunning under the eyes. The one thing I will say that I complain about is the colors, or the colors that they have available. A lot of the colors, they tend to pull a little bit yellow, even the cool neutral tones. For this one, I have 1.5C, and this one pulls a little bit yellow instead of cool. So I prefer for my skin tone a little bit more of that pink undertone to get that color correcting, that brightness, and it matches my skin perfectly. That's kind of my only complaint with the colors. Throughout the day, if I don't set this concealer, it can crease and the coverage can start budging and fading throughout the day. Most skincare infused concealer is the Charlotte Tilbury, her new beautiful skin concealer. It's in the name. It's gonna make your skin look beautiful. So this has 10% skincare active ingredients. For example, niacinamide, vitamin C, vegan collagen, glow peptides, wax blend of jojoba, sunflower, and mimosa flora, camellia oil as a radiant finish. And I would say it's a medium buildable coverage. Not so much full, but medium buildable. So a little bit more than medium, but around medium. This formula, it's also a little bit more creamy whipped texture. It's not very liquidy, so you can use pretty much any method to blend this out, just depending what kind of finish and how much coverage you're wanting. I find that the Charlotte Tilbury concealer, yes, it's very beautiful upon application. It's very brightening. It's very smoothing, very supple under the eyes. But as the day goes on, because it does have that thicker texture and consistency, I find that, again, working in very light, thin layers. And then I want to set right away with the loose setting powder just to make sure it doesn't budge and move anywhere. Because if I don't, I find that it does crease quite a bit. Because it is a creamier consistency, I can easily just go in with my fingers and tap, 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 blend it into my skin under my eyes. But I find that I'd rather just set it and forget it type of a thing. Our next category, the best up and coming, either brand or just concealer. This one is Dominique Cosmetics, and this is her Wide Awake Full Coverage Concealer. So, full coverage, and you're supposed to get a very natural, diffused finish. A unique thing about her concealer is her applicator. The metal tip is very cooling and it helps also depuff the under eyes. I'm gonna use the Real Techniques, their soft accent brush. It kind of has that nice angled as well. It's pretty dense, but it's one of the bigger brushes that I use for concealer. The application on this concealer is impeccable, very creamy formula. A little bit goes a long way. Like I said, you don't have to use all the concealer on the metal tip. You can to get that nice full coverage. And I will say it's a really solid medium to full coverage concealer. very buildable, very natural looking, even when it's this full coverage. The one negative about it, it's not extremely long wearing because it does have that natural finish. It kind of just never really sets down, which is okay because it has that caffeine in there to help boost your under eyes so they look nice and awake, depuffed. So this is really great concealer for those days when you've had a long night or you've had like no sleep. This is such a beautiful concealer, but the formula, the way it just looks under your eyes is stunning. But if you want the longevity, definitely set it with a loose setting powder or even a pressed powder. And of course, we had to include our favorite drugstore option. It's still the NYX, the Bare With Me Serum Concealer. It has a medium coverage with a natural luminous finish. So this concealer, this texture, it's very creamy and slightly thick. It's a creamy paste, but because it's serum infused, it blends so flawlessly. You don't have to even think about blending this concealer. It just does it for you. Because it does have that natural finish with a little bit of that kind of radiance peeking through, when you touch the concealer and when it sets, I would say after a couple of minutes, it does have that really nice soft feeling texture under your eyes. It's not super tacky or very serumy, even though the serum is in its name. So I do like wearing it on its own, but if I want that longevity, I will set again with a loose setting powder. So there you have it. Here's our quick list of every single concealer for different occasions or for every single occasion out there and for different skin types. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, spending time with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.